For someone out there who is starting their real estate journey, what piece of advice would you give them?
First, going into it, I knew that the emotions were the biggest thing for me to learn. I was super introverted going into this, and I'm like, my biggest thing is like I need to force myself to be an extrovert and make sure that I know how to talk to people and how to make them feel seen and know that they're supported within this transaction.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Life Unedited, where we have real conversations with real people. And today I'm talking to my guy Brandon. I just want to jump straight into this one because there's a lot that has to be said, I feel like. And so initially, tell me, Brandon, what defines you outside of your work title? Like who really is Brandon?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on this. I'm super stoked to just connect a little bit
Of
more. I think
course,
it's something that we don't get to do as much. You know what I mean? I think we're both busy, so I appreciate it, man. But
of
I
course.
think for me, it kind of reflects within my business. But the biggest thing for me is just making sure I'm treating everyone with kindness. I think that's my MO between everything is making sure that you know. I believe in like the law of reciprocity and everything coming back to you and not necessarily why I do it, but making sure everyone out there feels like every time I'm with them, my full attention is with them, and they feel they almost leave happier. So I think that's my biggest thing that I take away, use in my business, but also that I try and kind of live life by.
No, that's awesome. And I definitely experienced that as well. I mean, so for those of you that know, Brandon actually helped me buy my first home, which was absolutely massive. And
So
so
sweet.
got to get up for Brandon,
It's
honestly.
amazing,
Like,
man. No, give it up for yourself, dude.
it was honestly such a pleasure working with you. And I like what you just described. I felt that throughout the entire process of like, I'm going to give you my undivided attention. And like when we're talking or when we're working together, this is how it's going to be. I feel like a lot of people kind of lack that nowadays. I don't know
Yeah.
if you would call it like just being a genuine person or
Hmm.
something else, but yeah, I would say it's you being a genuine person, and that's
Totally, dude.
it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. So
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, man. I always like hearing the feedback. So I'm like, that's what I try and put out. And it's nice to hear it come back and like, oh yeah, that was the experience. So I love it.
yeah, no, it was definitely awesome.
Thank you,
Um,
dude.
and so I do want to also ask, like, what is something that like I guess people get wrong about you? Like, what's a common misconception people have about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I deal with is within, my industry, like as a real estate agent, everyone that I know in the industry is it like minimum, well, the I should say the majority is like, early 30s, late 30s at a minimum, and the
Mm,
majority is like 40, early 40s, late 40s, things like that. So I feel like I get a lot of misconceptions while we're working together in the fact of, maybe not from my clients, but more from other agents and things like that of like he's inexperienced, doesn't know what he's doing, and maybe immature, right? And that for me is
right.
like it's big. I want to make sure I'm running things exactly how I want to. So I think the misconception is, for me, it's like all I'm 23, right? So a lot of people are, all 23
I
year
keep
olds are
forgetting about that, by the
immature.
way.
It's pretty crazy, huh? I mean, it doesn't
It
feel
is.
like it, honestly, but but uh but all 23-year-olds are immature, and so man, I just try and carry myself a little bit more older for my age, and I think that reflects within my business. And I'm like, I think the biggest thing is
100%.
the thing that people don't see maybe right away is like, I think the passion and the forthcoming that I've put forward within just life and my business and things like that to make sure that just, life is set up good for everyone that I'm around and things like that. And I think that's huge.
Like I said, I keep forgetting you're so much younger. I say so much younger. I feel so old now being 27.
Dude, I feel like
Um,
maybe that's the misconception. Everyone thinks I'm older than I am. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
think that
what?
was the the right answer there.
Which is, I guess, a good thing, right? Especially for business. Like you said, you don't
Dude,
want. For some reason, people have this mindset in business of like, if you're too young or if you're young, you don't know what you're talking about, or you kind of
right.
lose credibility. But I feel like that doesn't really make sense. I should feel like it should be more on like just experience, right?
Yeah, I
And
think
and
it's
maturity levels for sure.
exactly 100%. I think it's I went on a listing appointment recently. They called me like an hour before before I even had a chance to, or before they wanted me to be there. And so I barely had a chance to prepare anything, and I was able to be there really, really quickly. I felt like I put my best foot forward, and they ended up picking another agent that had more experience than me, right? Which I'm like, fully understand. Do your thing, pick whoever's best
Right.
for you. But it's one of those things where it's hard. And so, I ended up seeing who the agent was. Total killer, does amazing stuff. But sometimes it hurts because you're like, they might even just be looking at an older agent or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it out of real estate, right?
Right.
Someone that's just older, maybe they just think has more experience, but they could have been doing something else for the past 20 years and they're just at an older age, right? And so
I
that's the
see.
thing that I hate seeing sometimes where they're like, oh, we just went with someone more experienced. And I look it up and I'm like, they're not more experienced. Like, maybe
Right.
they've been doing this longer, but have they done as many the repetitions, right? And so I think
In
that's something that
between.
I
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the misconception is that I'm a little bit older, but I go for it all the time. I'm for it because I got into this when I was 19, and so it's like, I was like, I didn't think people were going to trust me anyway. So it's nice. I think my height and
Oh
something else
yeah,
leads to
for sure.
people thinking I'm a little bit older.
Yeah, because what are you, 6'4"?
I'm like 6'3", something like that.
Six
So it
three,
helps a
six
little
four.
bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, like you said, you got into it very young. What made you get into it so young? Like, I mean, 19 years
Yeah.
old, straight out of high school, right? Like,
Yeah.
what got you here?
hmm Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I think I wish there was like some cooler story. I get a lot of people asking if it was like my parents, because I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like generational people in real estate.
Oh,
For
100%.
me, I didn't have any family in it. It didn't really stem that way. I think the biggest thing, I was always like I was entrepreneurial minded kind of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like that word anymore because I think it's thrown around as like someone that just is always trying to scrap by or whatever. But that was kind of me
Totally agree.
growing up. I was like, I was just selling anything that I could as far as like it was usually more of a creative thing. So I'd like make something or whatever. Then I got into photography and I started doing
That's right.
car photos for everyone. And so I started charging, it was like started like 40, then went to like $75 a shoot and things like that. And just started to get a little bit more expensive from there. And I was probably 16, 17 at the moment, and then or at the time, and then started going a little bit further. I'm like, let me just start trying to detail cars. And that one for me, I was like, that's not it. It's not something I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then yeah, so I think it was really that. And so I was like, my goal after that was like I started watching a bunch of the finance YouTubers and things like that just to kind of get in
Mm-hmm.
the realm of things. And I was like, I kind of want to get into like flipping houses. And so my thought was, hey, how do I get around the people that are already doing it? Kind of learn from them, but also I guess make money from that as well. And
Right.
so that was my original thought. Now I found out I really, really like this side of the business versus the investing side I haven't really jumped into yet. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that was my original thing. And for me, I just didn't know what college looked like for me. I didn't know if it would make sense to just throw myself into college if I didn't know what really wanted to do. So I'm like, if
Totally
I
get
just
that.
explore this in my early stages and I absolutely hate it or it doesn't work out, I have many years ahead of me to kind of explore those
Right.
other routes.
Right.
So that's where I was at. I think that was really important for me to make sure I just stopped my shot to kind of see if it would work. And then it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're killing it, bro. Like every single time I look at your page, I mean, your content one is amazing, but your
Thank you.
page itself, like I'm looking at your followers, I'm like, man, this dude's just, it's just going up, and I love it. I love it for you,
Totally.
bro, and
It's
I
been a
hope it
journey, man. I
continues.
appreciate it.
Of course, I hope it continues to be successful. And I mean, we talked about this the other day. Actually, you actually edit your own content, right?
Yeah, so I think it from the photography standpoint, I did all the editing and
Took some
photos for
skills with you.
those. Yeah, I think it kind of translated a little bit, and I kind of emulate some of the photographers that I work with when I do, my listings and things like that now because I don't do any of that shoots. Just it's a total different ballpark, I feel like. But I use a lot of that stuff to just slide into my real estate business, and so it was like, from the very first start, I was doing like talking head videos, kind of like you and me are talking right now, where
Hmm.
it's like a framed in video of me kind of talking to the camera, hopefully helpful tips about homes and things like that.
Yep.
Then I realized I'm like I'm still 19. Who's going to take advice from me on whether renting or buying is more important if I'm living with my parents and my family, right? Doesn't make sense. So I was like, how do
Right.
I make this a little bit more fun? And I took like I always say the sexy approach, which is like the home tour videos, something that's super fun to watch and easy to consume. And then from there, just, I was filming, editing all of them, and I think almost like 700 posts later now. So it's pretty nuts,
Jeez.
man. It's crazy. It was like
Jeez.
one a week or one a day for for a couple weeks, then I switched to 2 a day for a couple weeks, and that was just crazy. So I'm like an every other day type person now, which it helps
Okay,
a
so
little bit.
I was just going to ask that. So it's about every other day now that you are
Yeah.
posting.
It's
Okay,
hard, as I've because the end goal was to obviously gain more clients from it and create that business for me. But now I've created a business to where I'm a little bit busier and it takes a little bit of time away from the filming process for me. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm still staying consistent on that because obviously that's the bread and butter of my business right now.
of
Um,
course.
so it's like balancing those two. But yeah, every other day is my shot here, my goal, and then I'm hoping to go back to like an everyday type thing as long as I can get
Yeah.
myself in check and keep it going, you know.
I mean that's a hard thing to do.
Totally.
Having to shoot videos, edit videos, have it out same day, whatever it may be, like
Mhm.
on top of the work that you do already. I mean, it's just a lot of managing, right? Like
Yeah, it's a second full-time
managing your
job for
time.
me, you
It
know?
is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's been so great and so worth it too. Because I guess technically we didn't meet through social media, but I met Scott and Cassie through social media,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we connected through there, and I know you guys are close, and so it was so cool,
Yep.
dude. And I think it's I've been able to meet so many cool people from just strictly being on social media and having a presence, and it's like it's so worth it for me.
Goes
But
to show you
yeah,
how
it's
powerful it is.
right, 100%, and I think a lot of people think like, oh, you're gonna, go on social media and meet people that are just there to scroll and things like that. And I just think there's a lot of people on the other end, you know what I mean, that we don't really think about because it's obviously,
Totally agree.
there's everyone post being an influencer, but there's a lot of people out there that just have their pages for family and things like that. So it's huge.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, networking through social media is such a big tool that a lot of people I feel like don't take advantage of. Because throughout the years, networking has just changed, right? It used to be like in person, meeting people, going to events, things like that. But now you can actually network through social media, like,
Yeah,
for instance, what you do, to get business, to get, clientele. Like, and it's kind of crazy how all that has, I guess, what you would say sparked the real estate industry as a whole. Maybe since like
totally.
selling sunset became a thing.
I think that's it, man. I think it
It might
is.
have been like I feel like since the first season of Selling Sunset, that's when all these realtors and agents started to make a lot of content.
Totally,
Um,
dude. Yeah.
but it works. It works.
I'm with you.
So
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think people overlook it sometimes and think it's just a fun thing to do for realtors to, be ego driven and things like that. But I think it's so, I think that's you hit it on the head. It's like it's you saw that and you're like, look at them. They get to show off these cool houses. They get to
right,
play dress up,
it's
and
just a great opportunity.
yeah, very glamorized kind of way of it, but I think it was that, and I think I always watched all those, and it was tons of
Oh,
fun for me.
same.
I'm not even into those reality like TV shows, but I was like, they had me
It was cool
locked
to
in,
see
dude.
it was cool to see all the the homes, the different types of homes and houses that there were. So I
Exactly.
totally agree. As far as I guess being young and being motivated, I guess that probably helped you get past the whole test you have to take to even get your license, right? Because me personally, when I was in the point in time in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was going to
Hmm.
go into real estate.
Oh heck
And
yeah.
I bought a bunch of books and I was ready. I think I had like 3 or 4 different books like this thick.
Oh,
And
100%.
I was ready, and I started going through the content, the information, and I was like, no, this
What
this
is
is
this?
not for
Yeah,
me. Like, what is this? And I think
I
it was
feel it.
mainly because it was a lot of laws and policies and
Hmm.
things like that instead of what I assumed I was going to be reading about, which was more like homes and understanding homes from the ground up, and just how to like I guess marketing or like being a seller
Totally.
and just how to sell homes. And so
Hmm.
when I started reading the information, it completely turned me off, and I was just like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. So how did you have the motivation to get through that? Because that is rough.
Totally, man. I mean, I think it's you start reading the book and you think that they're like preparing you to be like a politician or something. You're like, what's
Right.
going on? So it's really interesting. And I'll say like a lot of the stuff that I learned in those books and in the classes, because I did mine through a community college. And I was actually able to do it through there. I always almost recommend doing it online now for anyone that's doing it because it's a lot easier and
Hmm.
kind of to your pace and things like that. But yeah, you start on it, and you're kind of reading over it. You're like, will I ever need to know any of this stuff? Not really, to
Nope.
be honest. You know, we have so many people we work with in the industry where whether it's like a escrow officer that kind of is that middleman, or the title rep
Right.
that kind of represents the escrow officers, the mortgage lender, everything like that. You know, we all kind of share the same responsibilities that we read over in those books, and so a lot of that times it goes out to those other people. You know, we handle a good portion of it, but so it's really interesting. So we don't end up using a lot of it, but I think the big thing for me is like I had some really good like mentors in my corner where you know,
Mm.
they didn't necessarily guide me through that learning process for those books because it wasn't, you know, wasn't their job to, but it was a
Right.
big motivator to see what they were doing and how well they were doing and just go like, you know, hey, they got through it and it put them in this position. I might as well try my best.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know, they make it way too easy now to be a real estate agent, in my opinion. I mean, like once you get through the books, because you can, especially when you're doing it online, it's like you can streamline that process so quickly, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of people in it now, and I think when it was kind of really busy and things like that during like the COVID terms, or you know, right after we kind of skipped through that, um,
Yeah.
you know, we had a crazy uptick in agents to where we had 25,000 agents just within our three local counties, which is
Whew.
pretty crazy. So we were competing with everyone, dude. And so, you know, I think it would almost make more sense to be a little bit more, what's the word? Particular, I guess, as far as the learning process and things like that, because these are huge, huge processes, you know. And I think I mean, you guys know when you were going through it, you know, it's not an easy process. You're like working through it, and
No.
there's so many decisions. You sign so many things, you know, and so for me, like if I didn't have the people in my corner that I did, to feel
Yeah.
confident representing someone in the biggest transaction of their life is the
Mm.
scariest thing ever. And these books did not prepare you for it. You know what I mean? And like you were saying, like we almost it's hard because we do so much as you know, I mean, you know it, like as someone that's kind of self-employed or kind of runs your own business kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing our marketing, we're doing Canva, we're doing you know, doing our own open houses, we're putting
Right.
out the open house signs, we're designing our open house sign. We're doing
Yes, a
everything,
lot.
and that's outside of the paperwork that we do, right?
Exactly.
And so it doesn't prepare you at all. It doesn't say, hey, here's how you know, talk to a client, here's the what you should be saying,
Mm.
here's how you should operate as a good salesperson, right? Someone that's
Right.
selling a product that they actually want.
But the best part is just being around people, being around mentors, being around people that already do it, and seeing how they go through their process. And so I was going to ask another question, but like
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back to what you had mentioned a little bit ago, which is
Mhm.
just the importance of having a mentor. Like
Totally.
having a mentor is insane. I mean, I had
It's
one. Scott
insane.
Scott was mine.
100%.
Basically took me under his wing and helped me out and taught me the ropes and got me to where I am today and still helps me out today. And
Absolutely.
so for you in your life, who was your mentor that helped you out tremendously? And also, um, do you think you'd still be where you are without them?
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I think so. It's a kind of a cool story. So I went to Folsom High School when I was a senior. His name's Aaron Rawls. He would come and speak to I guess most seniors every single year and just kind of tell them about almost more of a business side of things. He's like, because he owned a barber shop locally too, and he's got a whole background. You know, he's in corrections. He owned a barber shop. He
Dabbles
went
in
into real
everything.
estate. Yeah, you know, and so he ended up real estate's his full thing now because he's just gotten so good at it. But he would come and talk to everyone about kind of just business as a whole, and I was already kind of. I had a small spark in my mind where I'm like, this could work for me. And so I started following him on Instagram and I started following up and I would text him pretty frequently. I'm like, hey, you know, I just want to maybe swiping up on a story or just, hey, want to learn from you, blah, blah, blah. He'd leave me on red all the time. I'm like, dude, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, and I
Right.
was like, I want to get into this, you know, I want to learn from you, blah, blah, blah. Can I take you out to coffee and learn from you, whatever that looks like? And he was like, then he finally responds and you know, he would respond every once in a while, but he was like, dude, I'll mentor you. Or something like, if you join our team, I'll mentor you personally. And I'm like, boom, there we go. That's my in, you know?
You're like,
And
that's
so
it?
yeah, exactly. So we just kept, you know, in conversation from there. And then I got my license and I met at one of the meetings with them. And, you know, again, it's kind of daunting because everyone else is, you know, our team was structured or is little different at the time, but like everyone was older than me, and so it's like I walked in as a 19-year-old with, acne all over my face and my hair was too long and I'm like super, super skinny still, and so I'm like walking in, I'm like, oh shoot, this is daunting, but everyone was so welcoming, and it was one of those environments where it's like we're here to just coach everyone up, and we wanted to almost build this team of like just a bunch of rock stars that are just doing well together,
Mm,
and we knew that there was so much room in our area for everyone to succeed, which was something I learned really quickly. I thought it was going to be this huge shark fight of where we have to like fight over the inventory and the clients and things
yeah,
like that, but no, we
yeah.
we all worked together, and so that was huge. But I don't think I would be anywhere close to where I am without someone that was guiding me, through the process. Especially Aaron's been very hands-on and making sure that's helpful for me. But man, it is one of the, I mean, I can't speak for other industries, but like real estate, I think has like a 90% dropout rate. So within 3 years, yeah, if people get their license within 3 years, they've probably not renewed their license or they stopped doing
It's
real
crazy.
estate. Yeah, and
Wow.
I think 70% of agents last year didn't sell a single home. So, it's one of the things where it's like,
Mm.
it's this glamorized industry where it makes it seem like, oh, this is so easy. They get paid well, and I'll go do it and we'll
Blame
crush
Selling
it.
Sunset for that.
Exact. I think it is. But from there, dude, it just it's a hard industry, and so I think if you don't have someone to teach you through every single, how to talk to clients, what to do in a transaction, how to handle everything after a transaction or within a transaction, it's huge. And like you were saying, I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and I think there's so many emotions. And I was texting him every single second of like, how do I even respond to this email to make sure I'm sounding professional? So, anyways,
Hmm.
it's so so helpful, and I think not having
Totally
someone in your
agree.
corner that's going to show you how to do it, it's like for me it was virtually impossible because there's a
Hmm.
lot on YouTube that you can learn as far as how to become a salesperson or how to
Definitely.
cold call, which isn't necessarily my thing, and it's kind of figuring all that out. But man, there's just so many ins and outs that I don't think you really, not you, but anyone really thinks about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
going into it, and it's yeah, so helpful when you can have someone that's going to lead you through the process. And
It's about the growth that you learn from it, right? Like that's what's gonna, that's what's gonna 2x you. That's what's gonna trampoline you into like the next step of your career after
totally,
those 3 sessions. So yeah, that's huge. That's awesome. That's really cool that
I
your
think so
company does
too.
that. What is, how do I say this? In the coming years, do you see yourself, I guess, kind of giving back? Do you, like in the sense of mentoring or helping others out? Like, have you thought about that before?
Totally. Yeah. So I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and I kind of have quickly stepped into a role within our team where I'm trying to kind of help other agents and things like that. Like I said, like our team is structured in a way where we are basically we're incentivized by our brokerage to help everyone else at the brokerage to succeed, right? Obviously,
Hmm.
it does well for the brokerage if we have more agents succeeding, and then they want
Right.
to give back to us when we're helping that brokerage model work,
Yep.
right?
That makes
And
sense.
so that's been huge, and so I became a certified mentor, I think like a year ago or something like that, to help
Okay.
everyone that starts on our team and things like that. So that's been really huge for me. And it's hard because there's so many people that like want to do really well and want to get to a place where you can feel proud of what you've done, but there's so many things that go into it. So I've learned too to kind of give grace on a lot of things within myself and within people that are starting, because it's like
That's
you always
great.
have life going on. You have just the business in itself, and sometimes it's not going to work out, especially in sales where you're like I've done. For me, it was like a ton of open houses right away. I'm like doing 5 a week, and I'm like, let me just make sure that I can
Jeez.
be busy and get out there, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
some, and then you go 6 weeks of nothing, and you don't get paid, and you're like, oh dang, this kind of
It's
this kind of
daunting.
sucks. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
daunting, and you get kind of in a position where you're like, man, I am I doing things incorrectly, right? And so the mentor is really
Right.
nice to just reshape that and kind of give a perspective of, hey, we all went through this. We need to make sure that we're doing that. And so it's been something I've really liked in making sure that I'm coaching up other agents on our team, mostly younger agents, and that's been kind of my goal of like having a squad of agents anywhere from like 20 to 30, where we're just doing super well and can kind of create the same team model that we already have, but with a bunch of younger agents too, and kind of have a couple
Yeah.
different layers of our team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's awesome. I do
Yeah.
want to. We're coming up close. I do want to ask one last question just to kind of close this out. Maybe something not more personal, but in line of what we've been talking
Mhm.
about, and that's just like what's something about your journey that I guess surprised even you.
Definitely. Yeah, I think like especially within my job, it's I had to learn like emotional intelligence really quickly. For me, it
That's
wasn't well
important.
versed at that at that age, you know, and going into it, you know, I didn't realize how much emotion goes into this whole transaction or a purchase of a home or a sale of a home. And
Yeah, yeah.
once we bought our house, I was able to get a little bit more granular about it too, because I was like, man, we were waiting on we put in our offer and we competed against seven other offers, and we were in a position where we had to go up in price and we had to wait 3 days to make sure we got a response, and
Oh
we were
man,
going
that's stressful.
insane. Yeah, we were going insane, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty crazy. And so I was able to use a lot of that to go, okay, hey, let
First-hand
me
experience.
reframe. Yeah, exactly. Let me reframe how I deal with my clients, and make sure that they feel supported in this. And a lot of people joke about it, and they're like, we take on the role of everything within our business, and that includes like a therapist for our clients, which is obviously, maybe not the right word to say for it, but we take on a lot of that, where we have to make sure that everyone kind of feels very safe within it. And because there's such a stigma about bad real estate agents too, and not being able to trust some of them. And so going into it where you're like, okay, it's the biggest purchase of my life, I'm gonna be spending a lot of money, I'm gonna be sending a lot of money in places where I don't even know what is escrow, right? And then
I
you're
still
like,
don't
dude,
know.
and then
No.
yeah, I feel it. And then after the fact, you're like, okay, now I have a payment that's here for 30 years. What? And so it's
Right.
so daunting. And so I think that was the biggest thing that I didn't expect, and I had to really reshape or reframe myself for. I was super
Yeah.
introverted going into this, and I'm like, my biggest thing is like, I need to force myself to be an extrovert, and make sure that I know how to talk to people, and how to make them feel seen, and know that they're supported within this transaction.
It's awesome you experience that growth, that exploding growth, you could say, of like where your business just 6x'd. Like that is absolutely insane.
It's nuts,
Um,
man.
but like, what have you learned from that you've now, I guess, made easier for yourself? Like, have
Mhm.
you autonomized anything? Have you made anything like for someone out there who is starting their real estate, journey? What
Yeah.
a piece of advice would you give them for whether it's someone that is just starting out or someone who's like in a position that you were once in, where like they just 2x 3x 4x their
Mhm.
business, and now it's like how do I deal with all this new stuff that is happening?
Totally. Yeah. I think so like the two sides to that like question is like the first one is like, how do I handle the scale in business, right? And I think that biggest thing was like for me, just having like these procedures in place where I'm like, this is what I do every time I list a home. As I get the photos done, I start my video, I put the sign in the yard, I start my marketing side on the social media side, and then once we get into contract, I kind of know that process already, right? But making sure that I have the procedures in place, and then once we close, I get gifts and I do photos and things like that. And so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we get that all in line to make sure that it's not like a guessing game every time we do it? And so I've gotten a lot better at like every time we get into contract, or someone gets their offer accepted, those timelines that we need to meet are all within my calendar the first day that we get into contract. So I know exactly when we need to meet those timelines by, and be important, keep up with these important
Yeah.
topics and things like that. And I think that's been the biggest thing. And really, first going into it, I knew that the emotions were the biggest thing for me to learn, and the hardest thing for me to learn. And so it's like
Yeah.
right when I hit it, I was like, this is really hard. Now that I've gone through a lot more of it too, I think it was a more of a lack of knowledge at one point, where I'm like, okay, I just don't know how to handle this. And so not only are my clients kind of nervous because they don't know what's going on, I'm also in kind of an ignorant spot where I don't know how to handle this. So I go to my mentor and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And then once I've kind of, realized I know the full picture of things now, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to navigate those things a lot better, it's gotten a lot easier. So I think really it just takes time, and I'm sure you've seen that too within your business. It's like it takes one
Unfortunately,
thing. Yeah,
it's
man.
just
It's like you stay busy and you feel like you're really busy at some point, and now my really busy is has hit a new bar where it's like I can go doing more and things like that. So I
Man.
think just building off of that, dude, but has been so
it's
helpful for me to learn from.
It's constant, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that you just don't know of and won't know of until it happens, like until you experience it. It's not a skill that you can like prepare for beforehand.
Right.
It's just something that like I don't know. It's such a weird thing, honestly.
Yeah.
But
No, it'll
you
just hit you
really,
like a rock, dude.
yeah.
You're like, you don't know what's gonna happen, and then it just hits you, and you're like, okay, now I know how to prepare, you
You're
know?
like, oh, okay. And then the next day you get up and you learn something new, and then it's just a repeated
Yeah,
cycle over and over and
exactly.
over.
Yep. 100%.
But man, we could talk about this all day long,
Totally.
and honestly, I would love to have you back on this show because I feel like there's so much that we didn't even touch
I
on.
love that. That'd be awesome.
More that like I'd like to just ask you personally to get to know you more personally as
Yeah.
well, outside of just your business. But this was absolutely great, and I just want to say like thank you so much for joining the show and being on, and for those of you out there, thanks for watching. If there's someone whose story you want to hear, or have questions you'd love me to ask future guests, please let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one.